I quit my job and became an entrepreneur. And for me personally, that experience, I did that for about 3 years, and it was ultimately a failure in terms of the business. But that experience of being an entrepreneur and seeing what it takes to run an organization and to grow and create value in all different ways, it was just kind of a super valuable experience for me. So kind of tapping into my potential, I think I needed that experience personally where I could, I think if I had that mindset going into that organization out of college, I would have thought totally differently about how I can help my team and how I can use my strengths and skills to benefit the mission of the organization, the growth goals of the organization, all these other things that so many others were doing. But instead, I think I was kind of in the mindset of blending in and not really focused on creating value, I guess.
Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for listening. I sure have a good time making these shows, and without you all subscribing, I wouldn't have a job anymore. Today on the show, we've got Trevor Tait, the managing director of Tait and Associates, an engineering and real estate development firm working on public infrastructure across the United States. And Trevor's got a great story about how he learned to add value and how he figured that out by kind of failing at his first job. Trevor's going to talk about how that kind of changed who he is and how his focus is creating value in everything he does, which has brought to him empathy and EQ. He's got an intention of creating value through creativity. He loves being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and we're going to get into his spirit of gratitude. If you want to find out about Tait and Associates, go to tait.com. We're going to get started. Thank you for joining and welcome to the Edge of Excellence. Well, Trevor Tait, it has been a while since we hung out. Thank you so much for taking time from turning landfills into energy efficient cities and turning golf courses into energy efficient cities and using your engineering firm to make sure that buildings stand a little longer and people a little safer. It is great to have you on the Edge of Excellence today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm honored and looking forward to this. So thanks, Matt.
Well, we appreciate it. I like to start off the way I always start off. Trevor Tait, what is your definition of excellence?
So I guess I was thinking about this a lot. So my definition of excellence is striving towards your potential. So I think that if you're in a position where you've got strengths, talents, things that you're naturally drawn to, and if you're in a position where you're striving towards your potential, you just kind of know it. And so I think that's my definition of excellence, striving towards your potential.
So you kind of know it. How did you, and I know you went to Vanderbilt, so you probably did really well in high school. And just to be at Vanderbilt's difficult, so you probably were a great student. But then all of a sudden, in your case, you get thrown into a family business. And I'm sure there's a lot of pressure in a family business. And they're wondering, maybe you're just the owner's son, or why is this guy here? So how did you figure out what your strengths and talents were when you were in your 20s?
Well, so after I graduated college, I went to Vanderbilt and I studied civil engineering, and I was always kind of I guess drawn towards math and science in high school and excelled in that in college. But after college, I took a job at a large sort of construction corporation. And I think that for me, it was a great job. It was a great opportunity, but I think I kind of probably didn't quite have the right perspective or mindset in that position. And so I was, I guess I felt like I almost didn't even quite know where I belonged in that big organization, and really wanted to kind of blend in, I think, actually, if anything, and not make waves or not kind of tap into probably the reason they hired me, which was really to create value for the organization. So I was there, and I kind of, as a result, I think, of that mindset, I actually kind of felt lost, and felt lost within the organization, felt lost on what it is that we even did. And I also, at that time, I was there for about a year, and really wasn't a great employee. And I actually kind of, look back and have some regrets about kind of squandering that opportunity. But I actually had an epiphany where I wanted to start my own business. And it was kind of totally separate from the construction world, but it was nonetheless going to start my own business. It was about connecting college grads in new cities, and it was going to be this big tech startup. And so I quit my job and became an entrepreneur. And for me personally, that experience, I did that for about 3 years, and it was ultimately a failure in terms of the business. But that experience of being an entrepreneur and seeing what it takes to run an organization and to grow and create value in all different ways, it was just kind of a super valuable experience for me. And so, kind of tapping into into my potential, I think I needed that experience personally, where I could, I think if I had that mindset going into that organization out of college, I would have thought totally differently about how I can help my team and how I can use my strengths and skills to benefit the mission of the organization, the growth goals of the organization, all these other things that so many others were doing. But instead, I think I was kind of in the mindset of blending in and not really focused on creating value, I guess.
So do you think, and I love discovery through failure. And so many people, that's how they figure things out. So you're young, right? You just got out of college. Yep. You're having this great time in Nashville, listening to that horrible country music, which I hope you hate as much as I do. And you get this job, and you think you know what you're supposed to have in the job, but you were wrong. And then you go do another job, which is a company that you started. And did you realize that where you missed was the value equation? You missed because you were blending in. Did you realize that after the entrepreneurship experience, or did you realize right as you left the other job?
I realized it during the entrepreneur experience, I'd say, because I had this idea, and it's like, okay, so we've got an idea, and I did it with one of my best friends, and so we quit our jobs, and then it was like, okay, now what? Because there's not an organization that's handing us work to do, and we just kind of had to figure it out. And so you're just forced instantly to sort of totally think differently, and really kind of put myself actually probably in the shoes of my bosses at the big company that were trying to motivate or inspire me, the same things that we were doing with our employees, and the same, communicate a vision, have a vision, and execute. All those things that I just didn't have any context for. And at the end of the day, it's creating value. And I think that, I love the concept of being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And I think that's pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And I was pushed way outside of my comfort zone on this, and learned a ton quickly. But again, it really comes back to the mindset of being a value creator versus someone who's wanting to just kind of blend in.
Yeah. So you sometimes have to have that pain point. You go in there, and I remember mine was on the soccer field. First time I remember as a kid, and I'm trying out for the soccer team, and my friend Shane Croth is trying out for the same soccer team. And I was way better at soccer than Shane was. But we're in that little circle, and the coaches are watching, and people are kicking the ball back and forth. And every time someone would kick the ball not right at my feet, I let it go by so the coach would see, yeah, they didn't kick it right to me. And I didn't get on the team. And I remember, and I don't know how old I was a little kid. Yeah. I remember I did it wrong. I should have showed them that I can get any ball that's kicked at me and not try to point at others to make them lesser so I would rise up. And it was such a valuable lesson. Go get the ball wherever it goes. And I didn't make the team and my soccer career was over. Go get the ball. So later on in life, people are throwing balls and they're 50 yards off. I'm going to run as far as I can. Maybe I don't catch it, but everybody sees I'm trying. So it was failure that gave me that lesson. And I bet you,
Interesting.
I mean, I know you pretty well. You talk about the value you bring to communities. You talk about the value you bring to the environment. You get all excited when you talk about building cities out of wasteland and how you can turn methane gas into fueling the city. It's just amazing to hear you talk, because your whole mindset in everything I've known that you do is about creating value. And had you not been stung by trying to blend in, maybe you would have never figured that out, and you'd be some mediocre person sitting in whatever that company was in some middle management instead of changing the world.
Well, and so I think that, I think about this a lot. So when I was at that point, so coming out of college, I would love to kind of listen to some of my interviews that I had, and a lot of jobs I didn't get interviewing. So at our company, we hire a lot of engineers all over the country. A lot of them are entry level coming out of college. And I think back to my interviews, and and I can kind of, so I've always kind of put myself in their shoes. And I remember being asked, okay, so, why do you want to work at this company? And I remember saying, I really want to learn, and I want to grow personally, and and then kind of figure it out later what I'm going to do next. And I think about that, and the learning part is fantastic, and it's also obvious you're going to learn a ton. But I also think about, they're not hiring you just to learn. They're hiring you to because they, ultimately they believe that your skills and expertise will lead to, hopefully a return on their investment, and two, that you're gonna have ideas, and you're gonna have perspective that's going to improve the chances of success for the organization. And so I always think about that. And so again, learning is a product of being, I'm learning always. And I know you are too. And we're learning right now. I'm learning right now. This is my first time on a podcast.
But congratulations.
But I think that there's, it's and for me too. So, I had a great childhood and a great family life. And I feel very blessed that was the case. But, throughout school, it was I excelled in that environment because, hey, if you do this, you get this. It's very cut and dry, and you're not necessarily forced outside of your comfort zone. Or you can be in all different ways. But at the end of the day, if you study, you get good grades, you get into good college, graduate from a good college with good grades, you get a good job, that type of thing. And then when you get into the real world, people are hiring you not just to kind of learn; they're hiring you because they want you to help them. And so, at our company, we talk a lot about recruiting and hiring and the types of people we're looking for. And the number one attribute is creativity. And when we talk about creativity, you don't necessarily think of creativity in engineers, but what we mean by that is people who are looking outside the box to create value in ways that we might not have seen before. And within our organization, it's the entrepreneurial spirit is just ingrained in everything we do, and that's really what we're talking about. So I think that if I were to look back on that experience, for me, it was just stepping outside myself and really understanding what it means to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what great advice, because people go in to get a job and they're asked, why do you want to work here? I want to work here because me. That's not what the employer is looking for. So the correct answer, you want to work for Tait and Associates, you can go check out tait.com. And when they ask why you want to work here, because you saw the towers fall in Miami and you want to be part of a company that's never going to let that happen again, because you're so passionate about doing it the right way. And you've researched Tait and Associates and you know they always do it the right way, because you've been driving by this dump that's emitting methane gas, and you heard that Trevor thinks about different ways to turn those into thriving communities and power those out of the methane, and is constantly looking for ways to turn wasteland into wonderful places of living. And you want to be part of that because you want to work in an engineering firm that's not just about crunching angles and numbers and designing a stable bridge. You want to work in an engineering firm that thinks of creative new ways to do it in the new world, where the world's getting hotter and the materials are melting, and you want to work for a company that's at the cutting edge. That's the correct answer, right?
Right. Yeah. And, so you, you're, can we hire you? No, just kidding. But we're, no, but I think you're right where it's, so and I can get into a little bit about what we do, and you're dancing around some stuff that's pretty close. But we,
this is not a podcast based on accuracy. This is a podcast based on dreams and how to fulfill those dreams. And dreams are never fully accurate. So there's going to be a little fuzziness in the accuracy of my description of what you do.
Well, so if we're an engineering and environmental company, and we're also a real estate development company. But if you think about civilization, and there's so many aspects that go into a healthy civilization that most people never really even think about. Like when you get in your car and you drive to a meeting, it's like, how'd you get there? Well, you got on a road. Or you turn on your water. It's like, how did that, how did that happen? Where you turn on your faucet, there's clean water, and we're kind of, as engineers, we're civil engineers. We kind of talk about, kind of like physicians for society, where we just kind of make all these really complex things work. And there's always the best thing about that. About what we do is there's always a better way. There can always be a better way to do it. And so if you bring that creativity and that intention of creating value, you're in an organization that encourages that mindset. The sky really is the limit in terms of what you can do when you talk about improving and advancing civilization. I mean, we're at the cutting edge of all the new big trends in development. You're talking about, this. I know you mentioned the methane in the landfill, but several of the projects we're working on. It's sustainably repurposing landfill sites, and some of these are in really, really unique locations. We live in Orange County, and places like Newport Beach, up all the way up through LA. There's all different ways that you can repurpose these, and then communities are forming. Whether that's it's re-energizing areas that otherwise, wouldn't have the opportunity to build community, people coming together, shops, there's just, and that's just kind of one example of what we do. Yeah. So, when you think about, as I was saying, when you think about civilization, and, there's so many things that make that work. And what we do at our company is we think of it like physicians of society, but we're really, planning not only to sustain all of our existing infrastructure, but also to kind of plan for the future and what the future looks like in shaping the future. So in our world, you have engineers, you have architects, you have development professionals, and all these people they come together and work with cities and states to figure out what the needs are, and then to problem solve and create the future, really. And so it's you think about what's happening with things like autonomous vehicles, and eventually a whole new infrastructure set for flying cars aren't that far away. You talk about all the investment that's happening in renewables, and how to get cleaner energy, and we're at the cutting edge of all that. So it's a really, really exciting and rewarding career path to get into the engineering development world.
If we go back to your definition of excellence, which is, I love hearing when you talk, because you talk about things in a different way than other people talk about it. And you said striving towards your potential was your definition of excellent. You said you figure out your strengths, your talents, what you're naturally drawn to. So it's obvious that your strengths and talents are out of the box thinking or creative thinking. You've got your engineering degree, so you've got that backing you up, but you're constantly thinking about the potential that you discovered through failure. You went and got a job, you didn't deliver value, and it was your first job out of school. And now you've got a wife and kids and another business, and all you think about is delivering value. So your road to excellence is about delivering value in a creative way. And you can't stop thinking about it. You can't stop talking about it. And you figured that out in your mid-20s by screwing things up. I mean, what a wonderful way to find your path. And you just can't get off of it. Value, value, value. You deliver value in your friendships. You deliver value on vacation. And thank you for riding on the jet ski in the Bering Strait with me the other day. That was awesome.
Yeah.
You deliver value to your children. You deliver value at work, and you're thinking of different creative ways always to do it. And you figured that out by screwing up in a job. And did you get fired from the job?
No, I didn't get fired. I quit, but at the time, I think that I felt like if I'm being honest with myself, I think that I probably, maybe it felt like I knew it all or something like that. And the company doesn't, they don't get it or something like that. But they were 4,000 employees, and they had done something right, and had done incredibly innovative things in what they do. So they obviously knew something, and I look back, and it was my mindset that was just totally geared towards I think blending in, like I said, and not having a big picture on why I was there and what I was there to do.
And you never forget that. I never forget. And
No.
Unfortunately for me and for everybody I worked for, I got fired a lot because I didn't have the right mindset, and I wasn't focused on the wrong thing. And I didn't learn. I thought they were stupid. Oh, they really missed out. But eventually, it's called wisdom. Eventually that experience settles in and you become wiser. And then you move on into whatever you're doing next with that wisdom and that ability to really improve it. So it's okay if you're listening right now and you're sucking in your job. It's okay to change your path. If you just got fired or you just quit and you're blaming somebody else, it's a good idea to sit down and figure out what went wrong, even if it's not your fault. I always say, even if it's just 2% your fault, what could you have done differently? And that's the magic. What could Trevor have done differently? He could have not tried to fit in and tried to be more creative, but he didn't figure that out at the job. So he went and started another company, and it didn't work out. but he figured out I'm all about creating value. And wouldn't it be great if every single person in the world was all about delivering value to those around them? I mean, the world would be a different place.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, and kind of back to so that striving towards your potential. I think that when you're there's there's mega value in learning too, by the way. And I mentioned, people will say, I'm going to learn, and you need to be learning always. You need to be aware of that you're learning. I think about in our organization now that the way that I felt, and granted, I think it was not mostly, I think it was 100% really on me and my lack of perspective, probably my attitude, those types of things. But I think about that way I felt, and I really think about that in our organization now, and I don't want people to feel that way. And I learned a lot from that, actually, and I apply it so much to the culture of the organization and what we're doing. And if so when you're from the interview process all the way through the 5-year anniversary, 10-year, 20-year anniversary of the company, we want to make sure that you're always empowered to do just that, which is create value. So I can't stress it. It can't always be learning as much as it sounds cliche. Is so true, and you might be in a place where you're not striving, where you don't feel like you're striving towards your potential, but there's a lot to learn in that place too. And if you're learning, you can take that to the next thing, whatever that is. It's where the magic happens.
I had a kid that worked with me one time, and his significant other worked with Jill. And they both had unbelievable potential, and they both just left a ton on the table. And I was kind of upset because, I got paid by how well he did, and I'm not here to have people not succeed. And he didn't. And 3 years later, I was sitting at UC San Diego, and I see him walking up. His name was Alex Vatz, and it's been 25 years. And he's walking, and I'm sitting there thinking, damn, here he comes. I'm going to hear about all the stuff I could have, would have, should have done better for him. And he walks up to me and he says, hey, Matt, I finally figured it out. You were right. I left a lot on the table. And he listed off all the things he learned from his failure. And that story stayed with me. I tell that story all the time because experience plus reflection. You got to have the reflection. And sometimes reflection takes 3 years. Sometimes reflection takes 3 minutes. Sometimes reflection takes 3 decades. But experience plus reflection gives you the opportunity to have empathy and EQ so you can be a better leader. So you had this horrible experience for you beat yourself up, you reflected, and now you're a better leader because you can empathize with the people in your company and probably see when the same thing's happening and go draw the conversation out of them, making them a better employee, making you a better boss, making Tait and Associates a better company. So all these failures that you're having right now at 20 years old and all these mistakes that you're making while you're, today at work before you started driving home, listening to this podcast, those are the building blocks of your future. They're not just mistakes that you throw away if you stop and reflect. And if you look for what you could have done better. And you hear Trevor talk about how it was all his fault. Well, that's the way leaders think, because if you don't think it's your fault, you don't have control of it anymore. So you rode off into the distance, and we're going to get into Tait and Associates and all the wonderful things you all do, and all the different engineers you're hiring all over the world. But let's go back a little bit. What was life like in high school? How'd you see yourself? How'd you find your path?
Well, I kind of talked about this a bit, but I went to well, first of all, growing up, I was, I was really small, actually, like physically really small. I think I was like in freshman year, I was 5'0". I weighed like 93 pounds. And I went to an all boys Catholic school that had a lot of, it was a big sports school, and ended up playing football. And I look back on that experience, being one of the smaller guys on the team. And it was definitely a good lesson of becoming comfortable being uncomfortable, because I was not comfortable getting tackled by those guys every day for all 4 years. But I absolutely loved my my high school experience and made great friends. I'm still very close with to this day. And then in college, again, college was a great experience. I applied early decision to Vanderbilt because it had everything in my mind that I wanted in a college. It was in a great city in Nashville, and had a great engineering school. And I thought I wanted to study civil engineering, and it had the social aspect. So I absolutely loved it. I met my wife there. So college was a great experience. But I don't really, I don't look back on those experiences and think about me trying to separate myself or I think it was trying to get to the next, do what I needed to do and excel at what I was doing and needed to do to get to a higher level at the next chapter. And the real world just doesn't work like that. It's you at that point you have the foundation to take all that you've learned and then apply it to something where you're gonna help people in one way or another. So
are you saying I'm a Gen Xer, you're a millennial, I think. So this sounds like a millennial mindset. I think you might be a cured millennial. Are you saying that in high school, it was about do the best you can to excel so you get to the next level, do the best you can to excel so you get to the next level. And then later on in life, you figured out, no, it's not about you getting to the next level. It's about helping people. And therefore you might get to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm saying. When you're in business, you have a customer and you have to help your customer, whatever you're doing, whatever service or product you're providing. It has to be something that they're willing to pay for, and which would be something that helps them in one way or another, whether it's their, the food they eat or the, who knows what. And so you just have to think, that there's someone I'm trying to help with what I'm doing. And so it's my skills, it's what I'm drawn to, and how I'm going to help people.
Yeah. And as you help people and you lift others, all boats rise. And I've talked about this before. Whenever I've chased the mighty dollar, I've lost. But whenever I've tried to do something good, sometimes I make money at it. And I don't care because I'm doing something that's good and I want to do it anyway. So it doesn't matter if I make money or not.
I could not agree with you more. It's so interesting and it's so true, and it's totally counterintuitive, but it's so true. The numbers are the scoreboard for a business. The financials are really the scoreboard, and but at the end of the day, if you're just hyper focused on helping people and helping your clients achieve their objectives and their missions and their dreams, those numbers fall, and you're doing a great job at it. Those numbers just they fall into place.
Yeah, so I met this guy named Carl Schramm, who is the CEO of the Kauffman Center based out of Kansas City. And the Kauffman Center was deeply involved in entrepreneurship worldwide. And I was deeply involved with entrepreneurship worldwide at EO, and we were partners. And the Kauffman Center launched this contest to develop entrepreneur majors around the country. There were 4 schools that had entrepreneur majors, and they decided we're going to give away $100 million. And whichever schools have the best entrepreneur major, they're going to split up this $100 million. And I don't remember how many. I think the top one got 50 million and maybe 2 other schools got 25. I don't know. I'm not a detailed person, so I just make it up as I go. But I'm pretty sure it was $100 million. And they did it a second time, like 10 years later. And all of a sudden, all the schools or a lot of the schools in the country had these entrepreneurship majors. And I went out to Kansas and we were doing this global entrepreneurship, GSEA, Global Student Entrepreneur Awards. And I was one of the judges, and the guy from FUBU was one of the judges, and Kevin Harrington, who invented the Ginsu knife, and he didn't invent it, he found it. He invented the infomercial. He's one of the judges, and just this great group of people plus me. And Carl Schramm gets up and he's talking about the entrepreneurship major, and he said it was a failure. He said he wished he would have never done it, because what happened was the universities developed entrepreneurship programs and they started teaching social entrepreneurship. And he's like, that's not what entrepreneurship is. It's not the Tom Shoes model. And God bless Tom Shoes and God bless the sock company giving out shoes and giving out socks. But everybody thought you had to build your business that way. And that's not what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurship is solving a problem to help people, and maybe your business is helped too. We're not trying to solve two problems. We're trying to solve one. And again, no offense to the Tom Shoe guys. They're crushing it. They're doing a great job. I spent a lot of time working in various food banks, and I have a soft spot in my heart for people that are homeless and they need socks and they need shoes. But what he said was there was less people coming out of college getting into entrepreneurship after they developed the entrepreneurship major than before. And he thought the schools had missed the boat, because it's what you're saying. It's create value. It's lift people. And as you lift people, everybody wins. All right. Well, so you're in high school and you're all about yourself because you're a millennial. And I don't mind if you're a lawyer and you're listening to this. I don't care if I upset you. If you're a millennial, this is a good show for you to listen to. So you became cured. And you figured out it's not about me, it's about everything around me. It's not about my personal value and I want to learn and I want to grow. It's I want society to learn and I want society to grow. And I'm here to creatively deliver value. So you head off into college and you went to the number 14 school in the country. Beautiful city, beautiful place to go. It's probably the number one most popular school to apply to out of anybody I know. Everybody wants to go to NYU and they all want to go to Vanderbilt. And so you end up getting there. How did you separate yourself in high school? Because a lot of people that I get on the show have worked with me. We never worked together. How did you separate yourself in college so you could get these big jobs that you later quit and learn lessons from?
Well, first of all, just to be clear, when I went to Vanderbilt, it was difficult to get into, but not nearly as difficult as it is now. And I feel confident that I probably wouldn't have separated myself enough from all these incredible kids that are applying now to get in, frankly. But in college, again, I don't really feel like I did, to be honest. I had a great experience. My college experience was about getting the grades I needed to get good jobs, and also having as much fun as possible. And it was in all sorts of ways: the friendships, the social life, the experiencing Nashville, all those things. But I was focused on those two things, and it was a great experience. But I don't feel necessarily that I took advantage of all that the school had to offer, to really separate myself. I don't want to seem like I'm incredibly grateful for that experience. It was absolutely life changing, but I just didn't have that mindset yet, to be honest.
Well, and it doesn't matter when it happens. Even there's someone listening to this on the phone, listening in the car right now, or listening on their phone back home, that they haven't had their epiphany moment. I went to college to have fun. I went to college to have the college experience and to meet people. I was fully driven, though, to become a lawyer, to get into law school, to do everything I could to become a law partner. And half the time it took everybody else to become a law partner. I had a crystal clear path, and that path got wadded up and thrown away when I was a junior. And I went a different way because of luck. You didn't have a crystal clear path. You'd been doing things, and your families, giving you great leadership and great guidance, and your friends, your peer groups giving you great leadership and great guidance. But you went to college and, you had an opportunity to get even more out of it, and you didn't. So then you went and found this epiphany in your first job, right? So it doesn't matter when it happens, but it happened. So you're out of college. You've already separated yourself, and you can say all you want about what level Vanderbilt was, but I know Vanderbilt's been way up there for a long time. And I went to a school that's gone up a lot. I'm not telling anybody what it was ranked when I went there, but I know right now it's 32 in the country. And I'm happy. I hope it's 20 in the country, so I'll look even smarter in years. So you go off into these different jobs, and then you end up at Tait and Associates. And I know that it's a family business, and I know the business was started in 1964 by, I believe, your grandpa. And I know that it's been around for a long time. How did you end up deciding to go to the family business?
Well, so at that point, when I made that decision, I think I just had totally different perspective on this opportunity where, you know, and again, I'm so grateful, but you know, I had this platform, this 50-year-old platform to go and take and be an entrepreneur with in a certain sense. And also it woven into that is you know the legacy of our family and all these different things. And so it was I think that but I knew that I just saw it totally differently than I would have right after I graduated college. And super personal experience, you know, having being in a family business, but it's incredibly rewarding.
You weren't ready.
So, yeah.
You weren't ready before that, right? So
no.
And I don't know what they call people like you in different states, but in our state we call you lucky sperm, right? So you're lucky sperm. And I've heard that so many times, and I thought, wow, wish my parents had a business I could take over, or wow, I wish my dad had a big fat jet I could borrow and fly. But I've talked to some of those. I'm not going to mention any names, but I've talked to some of those lucky sperm. They're the ones I'm most impressed with. They're the ones, because you could have sat on your butt and done nothing. And the people I know that work the hardest, the people I know that are the most creative, the people I know that are looking to create the most value, oftentimes are the ones with the family business, and the people I know that are most appreciative. And they all say the same thing. I was so lucky to have this platform. I was so lucky to be able to build on the rest of my family's experience. And they come in and, you know, usually when they're ready, and sometimes they have siblings that don't make it through, but they come in looking to create their own legacy. They come in your case, with some wisdom from other experiences to really know what you have. And I mean, I talked to some of them, like, you know, I'm not going to mention any names. I usually mention names, but I call Sean Baldwin all the time. And I say, I mean, I've even told his dad, I'm so impressed with the parenting it took to instill the drive, because I wonder, I mean, would I just be kicking it? Would I be working so hard if I could have taken over the family business? Probably, because the way it works is you have to prove yourself to take over the family business. But you work really hard to develop that legacy, and you see an opportunity to be different. And you see through your wisdom an opportunity to deliver value creatively. And then next thing you know, you're running the business because you are delivering value, because you are creative, because you're not resting on your laurels, because you're not lazy. So that's the path that happened to all you folks that I know and admire so much. You worked your ass off and you earned it. So what's the coolest thing that you've done at Tait and Associates that combines your engineering degree and your passion to deliver value?
Oh, so we as a company, you know, so first of all, the education as an engineer for me, the most valuable part of that education is just being a problem solver, because you're just solving problems all the time. And I didn't really mention that when we were talking about, but if you're considering or in the engineering world, recognize that you're learning how to solve problems. And if you can take that mindset and apply that to problems in the real world and say, there's a problem, here's the given, I know the unknown, here's what I'm trying to solve for and solve for it with a process. It's a extremely important way of thinking and training your brain. But with the company, we've grown quite a bit, and And I think probably what I'm most proud of those. So my grandpa and my dad and my uncle just formed this amazing culture over the years. But I think that we needed to fine tune it and commit to it and really define what that was, and then make sure we're just living it day in and day out. And we saw, we put together a process and a plan with a goal of becoming a top workplace in our different communities that we're in throughout the U.S. And we did it, and we stuck to it. And we got tons of feedback from our associates around the country, and then we'd tweak things and fix things and listen to people, and here are your ideas. And over time, over the last 5 years, we started out, we just would start making these lists. Last year, we got number 3 overall in Orange County. Orange County has 3.5 million people. There's tons of major employers here, and we got number 3 overall for the best place to work. And I'm super proud of that. And it's really our associates that made that possible. And just because hey, this is what would make it better. And then we're able to recruit, great engineers, and it just creates this ecosystem where people are able to thrive. And then I think that the other thing too that I've just watched since I joined the company and watching projects that we've taken on, and you think about how complex these things are. I mean, huge projects, huge development projects, and you think like, gosh, like the amount of collaboration, the amount of teamwork, it's almost unfathomable to think about at the beginning of these things. It's like, how is this going to be a new harbor when it's completed, or a new town center, or whatever we're doing, and then to see those things get designed, built, and actually come to life, and then watch people come in and use these spaces, and it might be their new home, or their new where they go to work, or where they go to collaborate and create new things in their own buildings and in their own space. It's incredibly rewarding to be a part of that. I'd say
one of the really cool parts of being an engineer or being a builder is you get to see it when you're done. Like my job, I just talk on the phone, but I spend most of my time talking on the phone to people that are headed off to do wonderful things with their life. And then they call me 5 years later and tell me, and I get to see what happened. I went to a wedding last Thursday, and everybody's telling me how great their life is. And I said to my wife, Jill, I said, Jill, man, that was a great wedding. She said, of course, because everybody's telling you how great their life is. I said, yeah, that's what we're doing here. You get to see it the day it's done. You get to see the kids playing on the beach or in the park or whatever it is. So you're able to come in with that lesson on delivering value, with that lesson on wanting to bring in creativity and creatively change the culture slightly. It didn't need a major change, but you and your family and your team improves the culture through allowing ideas, through encouraging creativity, through looking for everybody to deliver value. And then while you're doing that, you creatively come up with new ways for people to live in the same old areas, sometimes new ways for people to live that are change your life. Well, you should be proud of that. I have one more question for you. One more question. Well, I have two. I got two. How has where you are now surprised you at all? Are you at a different place than you expected, or you're right where you thought you'd be?
So no, I if I look back on it, no, I couldn't imagine where I am now. I didn't think I'd be, running the company at this point, and have the opportunity to work with so many amazing people, and apply really kind of applying all these lessons. I feel very fortunate. I learned early to what I'm doing now. But I also have an amazing family, my wife and 2 kids, and it's that's a whole nother. You talk about creating value in all different aspects, and I'm super grateful for that. But couldn't have imagined, honestly.
But you know who did? You know who did imagine? your uncle and your dad. Your uncle and your dad
Yeah.
watched patiently while you went to that other company, listened to all the crap you were saying, and just waited patiently.
Well,
And then one day they knew that your wisdom had come and they knew your time had come, and probably watching you interact and watching everybody at Tait and Associates kind of benefit from that value-driven equation and that end result focus and the make the world better. And then they knew your time had come.
I don't know if they would explain it that way, but we'll
they're not on the podcast,
Yeah.
so I just explained it for them. Well, I have one last question. I told you I had two more. There is one. And I know I usually ask, what sacrifices have you made that you would never regret? I know there's one that you regret because you were well on your way to being a famous rock star back when you were at Vanderbilt. So I know you regret giving up your music career because you could have been the next David Lee Roth or Weekend or whoever it is. But I want to talk about what sacrifices you made that you will never regret. So what sacrifices did you make in your 20s that you look back and you say, thank goodness I did that?
It's hard to think of them as sacrifices now, actually, hindsight, because transformative things in my life personally. Quitting my job at the time I viewed as a sacrifice, and obviously I don't regret that because I learned so much that I needed to learn personally about creating value and being an entrepreneur. And then the first business venture that ultimately failed and shutting that down, at the time it was a super difficult time and decision and what we were going through at that point. But, being able to apply all those lessons I learned to what I'm doing now, I'm so grateful for that experience. So it's really hard for me to look at them as those things as sacrifices. And I think that if again, I hate to sound cliche, but that spirit of gratitude, and living with that spirit of gratitude and intention of gratitude, things that will happen to you, you'll see the opportunities to learn from them and grow from them quicker with that spirit.
Yeah, if you have the attitude of gratitude,
yeah, exactly.
And if you have the focus on adding value, and if you look at sacrifices at the time as maybe a rough lesson, but you can look back and, as you say, realize that sacrifices are transformational, then you don't think of them as sacrifices anymore. But you did at the time. You did at the time think you were sacrificing. And now with wisdom and experience, it's hard for you to even figure out what sacrifices you've made. There's been some big ones. You don't even remember them anymore because they've been so transformational and they've helped you find your potential, your definition of a success. How do you find your potential if you don't make mistakes and learn from them? How do you find your potential if you don't go down the wrong path and realize that's not what my potential is? How do you find your potential if you don't have these opportunities to meet with others and share your experiences and give them the opportunity to join your culture and add value? You don't, right? So I'll buy it. You don't have any sacrifices in your mind, but at the time, young Trevor thought he was sacrificing. Old Trevor thinks he was growing.
And I don't want to undermine people make major sacrifices, and I know that. And so the last thing I want to do is undermine sacrifices people make for major sacrifices. And I'm just trying to, in that spirit, just share that there's over time that there's wisdom gained there for me personally.
Yeah, my dad worked 3 jobs. He was gone from 4 in the morning till 10 at night. He sacrificed. And that sacrifice was transformational for me. And I know he sacrificed. There's people that have to leave our country and go to war for us and leave their family at home. And they're sacrificing for us. So yes, Trevor and I have not made the sacrifices that others have made. And this isn't about a political statement, and this isn't about, we're comparing what we've done to others. This is about sharing our path. Your path is your path, and my path is my path, and their path is their path. One of the most successful people I know was homeless at age 10, in 10th grade, and started one of the biggest skateboarding companies in the world after being homeless and having to figure out how to make money by skating and drawing decks. Another one of the most successful people that you and I both know, grew up protecting his little sisters, and that was a real sacrifice and was abused, and that was a real sacrifice, far greater, and it was transformational for them. And your sacrifices and my sacrifices have been transformational for us. So I appreciate your humility. I appreciate the value you deliver. And if people are taking it wrong, they can find a new podcast to listen to.
Well, anyway, thank you so much. I'm honored that you asked me to be on this, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And you're a great friend. So thanks, Matt.
Well, Trevor, you've created your own luck. So we talk about lucky sperm. You created your own luck, just like the other people that we all know and love, or you and I know and love, by learning from your mistakes, by trying crazy things, whether they work out or not, and then by figuring out really who you are deep down inside. And anybody listening can use these experiences that you had to kind of gauge themselves. Where am I at? What am I doing? And they can start to see what their passion is and what their values are and where they're headed. And by doing that, they'll find themselves teetering over the edge of excellence and setting a great example for others around them. So, Trevor, thank you very much for making time. Thank you for coming up with a creative way to inspire other engineers to do things that are crazy and big and different. And I really appreciate you coming on the show with us today.
Thanks again, Matt.